Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Village of Gurnee Planning and Zoning Board for this Wednesday, June 5, 2019. Could we have roll call, please?
Au. Garrity.
Here.
Nordentoff.
Here.
Paff.
Here.
Pazak. Riley.
Here.
And Sula.
President, we do have a quorum. If everyone would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The first item on the agenda is a public hearing request by Mr. Larry May on behalf of Kimbar for property located at the southeast corner of Kenwood Avenue and unimproved Greenleaf. Clarice?
Yep. Kimbar Inc., owned by Mr. Larry May, has submitted a petition for a variance to reduce the west building setback from 25 feet to 10 feet. Mr. May believes that the lot is incorrectly identified as a corner lot, and therefore the interior side setback of 10 feet should be applied along the west property line. The subject property is a corner lot based on the definitions of corner lot and street in the zoning ordinance. The subject property is zoned R3, single-family residential, and is located at the southeast corner of Kenwood Avenue and unimproved Greenleaf Street right-of-way. As with all variance petitions, the Planning and Zoning Board will make a recommendation based upon the standards for a variance, which will be forwarded to the Village Board for their determination. The petitioner is in attendance to present his request and answer any questions the board may have.
Okay, thank you, Clara. As this is a public hearing, I request anybody that's going to give testimony or ask questions to please stand and be sworn in by the village attorney.
So this is anybody that might participate. Please raise your right hand. I'll swear you in. It looks like we're just going to have one person giving testimony. Is that correct, sir? Do you plan on participating in the hearing?
No, I'm here to observe.
Oh, yeah, you can
Sure,
do that.
that's
Sure,
fine.
just wanted to clarify. No, you don't have to do that then. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll turn the floor over to Larry. If you can just please use the microphone, as they do. We are under video recording.
I have trouble hearing, so I'm going to stand close.
Yeah, you got it upside down, I'm sorry. So is there anything you'd like to add to what Clara's?
You've got my book. I'm not going to present anything, but I'll answer questions.
Okay. Any questions from members of the Planning and Zoning Board?
Just question of staff. Is the lot, as it's zoned and set up today, a buildable lot, even within the setbacks that are set forth in the code today?
I'm sorry, I didn't know if Claire was going to answer that. Yes, it is buildable.
Thank you.
But keep in mind, it's an 80-foot lot, and if it's 10-foot setback on the east side and 25 on the west side, that's 35 feet, so that only leaves, 45 feet wide for a building.
Understood.
Okay. Edwin, you look like you want to ask a question.
No, I don't have a question really. My only thing is that I don't believe that as long as the right-of-way for Greenleaf exists, that we could change the setback. Personally, I can't see how we could do that. I mean, if they vacated the easement or the right-of-way for Greenleaf, then I could see it happening, but it hasn't been done. So basically, the street still exists.
Well, the right-of-way exists, there's no
Right.
street there.
Right,
I mean,
the right-of-way.
basically, I was asked, right-of-ways still are useful to the village, even if they're not constructed as roadways.
Mm-hmm.
So, generally speaking, the village, we do on occasion, but not often do we vacate the right-of-way. So the request is, that's why the request is a variance.
Right. But we have vacated road right-of-ways before, haven't we?
On occasion.
Okay.
But I mean, generally, there's a path there now, so,
Right.
what would be the purpose of vacating it? And
The complication with this site is also that half of the road through that right-of-way is built. So the southern half of the block has a constructed roadway.
Yeah, I saw that.
So typically when we do right-of-way vacations, we do not do half-block vacations. We want to do the entire block of vacations. And in this situation, it would not work because the road is already half-built.
Okay. All right, so they never vacate even a portion of it, so it could just be a path?
Typically, no. Typically, we want to do full blocks of vacation.
Because there's other uses for right-of-ways other than roadway. I mean, sometimes water and sewer lines go through there.
Oh, I see, because this has a half of that section there built
Correct.
to the bottom of his property, the south end of that property.
Right. The full roadway is built on the south. So the right-of-way between Kenwood and Harper
Right.
is
It's half built.
250 feet deep. 125 of it is already built.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, no one viewed vacation as really a viable option.
Okay.
For this location. It really would not be consistent with what the village would do in terms of vacating roads. So that's not, that's really not the alternative, nor is that presented by the petitioner either.
Okay. So my question then would be if we gave the change from 25 to 10, could they still build a road there?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
it could be built in the future.
It still could be
It would
built.
still allow for because it's the right-of-way, the 60 feet of right-of-way would remain intact.
Okay.
And that's the adequate width for building of the roadway.
So the petitioner would just have a house fairly close to the road?
On one side, yes.
So the question becomes, from a practical matter, is there any real useful purpose for that road ever being built out? I mean, it would never go to the existing Greenleaf to the south, because that would just be very, very disruptive to the neighborhood. So,
Okay.
That
Excuse me?
dedicated right-of-way first recorded in 1925. So it's 94 years the road hasn't been built.
Laura, did you have any questions or comments?
I'm just looking at this, so from Harper to Blackstone, is that a street, or is that,
That is a trail.
so that's a trail too, okay.
And that, there is no, there's really no plans
No
to
plan, okay,
change that, because that's a pretty established route currently.
yeah,
And so Greenleaf tees into Blackstone. And, that's something that's, even from an engineering standpoint, there's been no discussions to open it to Blackstone.
okay.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to just go through the formality of opening the floor to the public. Is there anyone from the public that cares to ask a question, or? Okay, Brian, you need to swear them in.
Anyone that would like to give testimony, please rise and raise your right hand. If you want to talk, raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, I do. Okay, thank you.
And if you could just please use the microphone.
Hi, my name is Peter Kennedy. I live immediately adjacent to the area. I didn't get a notice of this hearing, but unfortunately I made it back in time for this. I have a concern because I've lived in this community for over 20 years. And the area in question, there's a berm that we negotiated with the village probably, I'm guessing close to 15 or maybe even 20 years ago, when the Lidstrom was still building out Kenwood Avenue. And the berm was the result of some very intense dialogue between the village and the homeowners on Kenwood. The berm was put in place so that we could beautify the area, and that was prior to the bike path going in. And I've had a couple of questions about this. In offering up a variance, what happens to our berm? we have some wildlife that sort of have settled into that berm there. And I don't know if that showed up on any of your plans. I didn't see any notification of the berm on the drawing that eventually we saw there, but there is a berm that was habitated there. And so I was wondering what's going to become of that.
The variance being requested would have no impact on anything other than the piece of property that's being petitioned.
No, I understand that, but if from what I'm hearing now, and if the road were to be put in there again, what happens to the berm?
Can you tell us exactly where the berm is?
I think it might actually be, is this the berm? Okay, so it's in your packet, Exhibit C2.
It's right immediately adjacent to, on the east side of the bike trail. I know where it is. My house is right next to there. Yeah, thank you. And as a matter of fact, that berm was the only thing that prevented my house from flooding when we had our major flooding that occurred, that most of the, I forgot what the creek that went in and flows into the Swanson Trig, that berm is the only thing that held back all the water from
So this
coming
berm
out.
is in the right-of-way then, correct, staff?
Do you know that one, David?
Sorry, what?
The berm's in the right-of-way?
The berm is in the right-of-way, yes.
Okay, so nothing,
There's no plans to touch the berm.
except, I'm sorry, ma'am, only one person at a time.
So the berm is going to stay in place, and if a home goes there, it's going to be 10 feet from the berm? Is that my understanding here?
If the village board grants the variance request, instead of the building being no closer than 25 feet from the property line, it might be as close as 10 feet from the property line.
Okay.
It's only, the variance being requested only reflects things to the interior of the property lines for that particular lot.
Okay, is there a variance also allowed for the drainage there? Because there's a drain that runs on the east side of the berm?
Any drainage issues would be
Yeah.
dealt with on the development of the site and would be handled by our engineering department to evaluate and figure out what the drainage patterns are and to make sure it doesn't impact anybody adversely.
Okay, but it already is, so that's why the purpose of my question.
Well, the
could you-
the relief requested is not going to affect the 60-foot right-of-way. So nothing tonight is going to be decided regarding the 60-foot right-of-way. That
Okay.
remains the way it is today.
Right, explain to me where's the 60 feet starting, from what point to what point? Is that where the road, is that the footage that's required for the width of the road?
No, the road would be, how wide is the road would be?
Typically, a road is 30 feet wide. It's land that was dedicated to the village back in 1925 for road purposes. So it's basically, the trail that goes through there is pretty much centered within that 60 feet right-of-way.
So if a road went through there, the trail would disappear?
Correct.
Right. When you think of a right-of-way area, think of a typical subdivision where there's a road and typically there's sidewalks on either side of the road.
Correct.
The right-of-way goes from the outer edges of both sidewalks.
Correct.
Okay, so it's at 60 feet in between.
And if you want this sheet, this is one of the exhibits that mark that. So I think the variance is, the access would have to be from Kenwood. And that's why the petitioner is asking for the variance, because he's not asking for this road to be built where he could access from there. If you look south, because Greenleaf is developed, those properties are accessing off of Greenleaf. This petition, I think in part, is because they're not seeking that be built. They want to access it from Kenwood.
Yeah, I understand, and that would make it different than every other plot of land in that street. Am I correct?
The house immediately to the right is accessing from Kenwood as well.
Correct, that's my house.
Yeah.
Okay, so all the other homes along Kenwood there, I've lived there 20 years, the lot sizes are about identical to mine.
Correct.
Pretty much so.
All lot sizes are around 80
Okay,
feet.
so the purpose of making this lot different for this variance none of that was in the information that we got
Well,
from
but
the
see,
package.
your lot has a 10-foot side setback. Because even though this isn't a road, currently, it's a 25-foot setback. So if your house is on a 80-foot lot, you could build a house 60-foot wide. If the relief isn't granted here, this house can only be 45 feet wide would be the maximum, unless, you know, unless you were to give that property the same side setback as your house. So, because even though it isn't a road, it is a right-of-way, there's a 25-foot setback. The petitioner is asking for the same setback as that exists on your property, 10 foot on both sides of the house.
Which corner are you on?
I'm on the west corner
Of,
Yeah, that's what.
Kenwood and Greenleaf, if Greenleaf were to go all the way
so just to
through.
clarify, Mr. Winter,
okay.
this gentleman has a 25-foot setback to the Greenleaf Avenue right-of-way and a 10-foot to the west property
Okay,
line.
I pointed to an exhibit and you said that was your house. This is not your house then?
No, I hadn't seen what you were pointing out to
Okay.
me there.
So I misunderstood.
And so that, if I'm understanding it correctly, this opens up so any other people that are on, in our subdivision who are on a road similar to that could get a similar variance if they were going to
No, they'd
build
have to
out?
file a petition, they would have to submit support for their variance.
Okay,
They're decided on individual cases, every case is different. So it's an independent decision made. This would have, you know, no effect on future decisions. They have to be fact-based.
okay, what about the property values? Any consideration for that, for building it out like that way? Does it change any of that?
If the change was within a house that would respect the neighborhood, it would be similar to the other houses, whereas the 45 would make it a little house. If we don't change anything, there'll be a little house there.
Okay, I'm figuring the house is going to be similar to what's in the neighborhood there now.
And I think that's what Mr. May is trying to convey, is that he can build a house more in character with the existing neighborhood.
On the existing lot without having a variance.
He would need a variance to build a house that would have consistent size, is what he is posturing.
Well, I'm afraid I'm not understanding that if the lot sizes are the same.
Because of the variance, because of the setback rules, if it's considered a corner lot, the code requires that you can't build closer than 25 foot to the right-of-way.
On a corner lot.
On a corner lot. And the lot that's being discussed here, by definition, is a corner lot because a right-of-way for a road that exists or a contemplated or future or theoretical road, because there's a right-of-way there, requires a 25-foot setback from the lot line.
He's on the corner here, so his house would have similar setbacks to what.
Does that exist on the other side of Kenwood too? Because there's contemplation, I'm hearing about that being a property that may be built on the other side of Kenwood.
The setback rules apply to all lots, and what determines the setbacks is whether it's considered an interior lot, which means that it's not on a corner, or it's a corner lot. And
Correct.
because of roadway situations, setbacks are greater to provide better public safety so that people can properly navigate turns without having a building being too close to the road. That's the whole theory behind it.
Yeah, that's pretty much throughout the subdivision.
Okay. Okay, do you have any other questions, sir?
No, I just hadn't seen all this information. I do have an objection to it because there's a lot of information that we have not had a chance to study on this. So for right now, I just wanted to file my objection.
Okay. And you can follow up with staff in terms of notice procedures outside the meeting, okay? All right, I'm going to close the floor to the public. Any additional questions or comments by members of the Planning and Zoning Board?
No.
I mean, you know,
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
You know, my thinking here is that you know, I've kind of changed my mind listening to the testimony that the road could still be built. You know, my concern coming in was whether or not, you know, the property should be vacated before we were to, you know, take a look at changing the property setback. But I think my concern would be if we didn't, that there would be this small house that's out of character from the rest of the neighborhood. So listening here, I've kind of done a 360. So I just thought I would offer that up.
Okay. I think it's a 180 other ways you get
180,
back where
thank you.
you started.
I just came from the baseball field, so I'm, you know.
I'm sorry, Tim.
Okay,
Okay.
very good.
Any other questions or comments? Sure. Could you stand up, please?
Please rise. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Okay, then you need to use the microphone, please, and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mark Stackley. I live at 4008 Kenwood. I'm kitty corner to the property, north side of Kenwood. I just have a question regarding the setbacks. I understand the corner lot being 25 foot because I am theoretically a corner lot, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And is the setback then to your neighbor next to you, is that only 10 feet then?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yeah,
Okay,
interior setbacks are 10 feet.
Okay, so and my lot is what, 80 feet?
Yes.
Okay, so to build a house in the character of the neighborhood, we'd have 10 feet away from the neighbor to the east of the lot and 25 feet to the potential roadway, which
For the
is
setback
exactly,
property?
which is exactly what my setbacks are. So you can still build a house in the character of the neighborhood by following the current setback rules. Correct? So I guess small is relative, you know, is a 2,500-foot house considered small? I didn't look at the plans, perhaps this is a 4,000-foot home going in, I have no idea. But it's just kind of an observation there. It seems if you observe the setbacks as they currently are, you'll still get a house of the same character in the neighborhood. Because those are the rules I'm following.
Okay, thank you.
Just an observation, that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. I'm closing the floor to the public again. Yes, Dave?
Yeah, my question was sort of in the same vein. If we're can talk for a moment about the property that's on the west side of the right-of-way, you know what the lot width is on that property?
Where it says it's
To the
85.
directly west
To
of
the
the
we-
subject property?
Correct.
That one is 85 feet, so that one is also very close to the 80-foot width, but it is 85.
Okay, and the current side setback on that is,
Would be 25 as well.
it was built to code? It's 25?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I mean, it is possible to consider in between ground too, so.
Somewhere in the middle?
Yeah. A 20-foot setback would give him the same buildable width as his neighbor to the west.
I personally don't know if I want to negotiate.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if this is the forum for negotiation
Okay.
personally, but
Well, it's, the way it's presented is binary, it's yes or no, but if the petitioner does want to amend it, they can amend it, they could amend it to ask for a 5-foot variance, a 10-foot variance. But the request before the commission is 15.
Right. Okay.
Go ahead and make a motion.
Yes, please.
Motion to forward a favorable recommendation on the petition of Kimbar Incorporated for a variance to allow a building setback for the west property line of the lot located at the southeast corner of Kenwood Avenue and Greenleaf Avenue to be reduced from 25 feet to 10 feet.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second. Any discussion? Could we have a roll call, please?
Garrity,
Aye.
Nordentoff,
Nay.
Paff,
Nay.
Riley,
Aye.
and Sula.
Aye, motion carries 3-2. Next meeting date on the calendar is June 19th.
Correct.
Are we going to have a meeting?
We don't have a public hearing, but we may have other items.
Okay. Before we go, as you know, we recommend to the village board, so Clara will let you know when the village board will be considering this matter. I'll open the floor to the public for anybody that would like to talk about something that wasn't on the agenda tonight. Close the floor to the public. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.
Move to adjourn?
I almost forgot that part.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you.